What's up, guys? It's your boy Stunt Lifestyle, and you are watching the We in Miami podcast. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have Diana London, who is a TV contributor, a columnist, and political strategist who has emerged as the leading voice in the movement to free Tory Lanez. She's leading a growing effort to demand the pardon and release of Tory Lanez, who is currently serving a 10-year sentence in California for a crime that his supporters say the evidence strongly suggests he did not commit. Please welcome the one and only Diana London. How are you? Thank you for coming. And we also have William Cunningham II.
What's up, guys?
What's up, brother? How are you? Good. And before we get started, I got to ask you guys, where we at?
We in Miami.
We in Miami. Real Miami.
It's funky.
Now, Diana,
Yes.
how are you?
I'm good.
Good. I understand that you have some updates for us today on the Tory Lanez case. But before we get into it, because I know you guys want to know all the updates, can you start by giving us the background on how you got involved with the Tory Lanez case?
Last year, I received a phone call from two people who are kind of in the industry, and they work with, Snoop and Diddy, and obviously we know Diddy's going through a lot of problems, and I'm a fixer, and a lot of people come to me when they find themselves on the side of the DOJ that needs some advocacy. And I used to work in Congress. I worked for a congressman who was a very high-ranking member in the Judiciary Committee, and so I grew to understand how to navigate government. And so they had originally come to me because they knew I knew people within the Trump administration, and they said, we want Tory to be partner. He needs some help. And I said, well, unfortunately, Tory is a state case. It's not a federal case. And so he's going to have to pursue the Newsom's office, which is in California. And I said, but, I know a lot of people, and I know, I work bipartisan. I work with many members on the other side. And I have a lot of friends that are Democrats that, knew Newsom well. And I said, let me make some phone calls. I said, but before I do that, one, I need to hear your story. And I need to hear Tory's story. And, I don't really know much about the case. Obviously the sensational headlines with the people that were involved were pretty loud, but I didn't follow it as a whole. And I wasn't someone who listened to Tory's music and really followed it too much, nor the other person's music that was involved. I wasn't like a fan, and in some sense that actually was good, because I could go into this with a very objective view of things. I wanted to look at the facts.
Right.
And so I said, so before I start talking to people, one, I need to know your story and I need to see the facts. So I got a call from Tory, and we were on the phone for 2 hours. And I sat and listened to that man's story, and he walked me through everything. And I said, God, this just doesn't seem right. Like, this is so wrong.
Right.
And I said, Tory, if you're telling me, if what you're saying is the truth, then this is so egregious that my heart is broken for you, because I just cannot imagine going to prison for something that you didn't do.
So Tory told you exactly what happened.
He told me from top to bottom. I mean, we were on the phone for over 2 hours.
Okay, we got to get into that later on, because
Yeah.
I want to know that conversation. All
Yeah.
right, so go ahead.
So I said, okay, listen, not that your word doesn't mean anything, but it doesn't, because I don't know you. And that's what I told him. I said, I don't know you, and so I don't trust you yet. So I need you to send me everything. And so his team at the time was working on an appeal for him, and the appeal had been submitted pretty successfully. They got some writs in there, which if you look up what a writ is, it's like, there's certain pieces of law, and writs are very hard to get in an appeal, and they were successful with some writs. And I said, okay, I need you to send me over all of your paperwork. So I dug through and I started reading everything, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is crazy. He's been 100% exonerated from the gun. Like,
Right.
how in the hell is someone in prison when their fingerprints are not on the gun, that the gun that they're claiming was his that shot someone? I'm like,
Wait,
okay.
so hold on. So his fingerprints aren't on the gun?
There he is 100% exonerated from the gun. There are 4 people's fingerprints on this gun. Okay.
Okay.
2 are a man and 2 are a female. His is when they took the swab, he has been 100% exonerated from the magazine. And the likelihood that one of those fingerprints are Tory's is 0.01%, meaning
wow.
that you actually could have more DNA on that gun than Tory.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm
That's
not kidding
crazy.
you. So,
I didn't know that.
oh yeah, and what's crazy about it is the night that the incident happened, they swabbed everybody and everybody had gunshot residue on them. So if a gun fires in this room, you would have residue. We would all have residue.
Right.
Because it's a certain, okay? They took the swab of everybody. And if you look at the website, which we'll probably get into, which is why we're all here today, the website went viral. We show video footage of everybody getting swabbed for gunshot residue, but they only took one person's fingerprint that night. They took Tory's fingerprint. Why didn't they take, if every single person at that incident had gunshot residue on them, why wasn't everybody fingerprinted? No,
Right.
only Tory. So
Why do you think that is?
that's a great question, and I think we want to know that answer, but that answer was never told.
Right.
To them, it was irrelevant. To them, you know what it tells me? They wanted him to be the perpetrator. That's what they wanted. And so they weren't interested in finding the truth. We could get into this conspiracies, which we won't. I think they all live out there of why people think that Tory, through conspiracies. But I'm not going to get into those because that actually doesn't matter to me. What all I care about is that the way that this case was handled was, in any honest courtroom would never pass the smell test. If in any corner, like any. And if you were just a regular person, I think because he was a celebrity, there was even more of it was even more important that they got it right because they were making a statement out of him, right?
Right.
And so if you're going to make a statement out of somebody, you better run that case and that courtroom as tip top and above fray as possible because you're making a statement out of that person.
Right.
Most people don't realize that Tory, his legal defense dropped out 2 weeks before the trial.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, and the judge did not allow the time for the new team to come in and
why did his team drop out?
Well, there were some disagreements, but there were some conflicts of interest. They found out later on after he was in prison that she worked for Rock Nation.
No.
Yeah, she used to represent Rock Nation and had a lot of dealings with them. And so that's not why she dropped out, but there's a lot of questions in the reason why things were ran because there was evidence that they should have been able, there were witnesses and evidence that they were trying to bring in and they couldn't because his attorneys didn't even have time to do it because they only gave him 2 weeks to
prepare.
To prepare at that point. So he was denied some of that. There's just due process. He was gagged, so he couldn't even defend himself. And so when people ask all the time, like, why didn't Tory just get on the stand and tell his story? Okay, well, there's a few reasons. When he tried to tell his story online, they gagged him immediately. So remember that? He put out a tweet, which the attorney that dropped out at the time advised him to put that tweet out, which is some bullshit. Because if you as an attorney know that the judge is going to gag your client most likely over a tweet, why in the world would you advise them to put the tweet out? Which is very... Right. One would ask why. Were they really looking out for their client? He said, if you look it up, it says there's some slang in it, but the gist is basically he was sleeping with both of them, and they found out and got him in some trouble.
Getting mad at each other.
Yeah, it's some explicit stuff, but basically he just says.
Because for the people that don't know, it started out it was like a gathering at Kylie Jenner's house.
Yes,
they were all hanging out,
drinking. He didn't come until later, which is actually relevant because the Megan and her assistant Kelsey were already at Kylie's house drinking, and this was during COVID. So they were drinking and drunk, and they had been there for hours. And Kelsey fell asleep, and she was upstairs. And then Megan had invited Tory to come over, and so he came later on. And so by the time that he showed up, and why this is relevant is Tory would have not known what was in the bag of the ladies, of where this gun was. And the gun was in the bag. Okay.
Was in whose bag?
It was in Megan's bag.
Okay.
The gun.
And okay, so it was Megan. It was Megan
and
Kelsey, which is Megan's assistant.
Yeah. And who Tory had a relationship prior with, and then he was having a relationship with Megan.
Intimate relationship?
Yes, they were for a long time.
Okay, yeah. As well as Megan.
And then COVID happened, and apparently Kelsey had left during COVID, and Tory and Megan had kind of started during COVID, like a relationship. I don't know if it was exclusive. I'm not really sure. But they were definitely seeing each other and spending a lot of time. And it was all over the blogs, and they were doing videos. So everybody kind of knew that Megan and Tory had a thing going on, which is important because part of the situation that caused a lot of question after Tory was convicted was when Megan went on with Gayle King, and she asked Megan, "Did you and Tory have a relationship?" And she said, like a sexual?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "No," like denied it straight out.
I remember that.
And then goes on live stream and says and admits pretty much like, "Yeah, we had a sexual relationship, but I was so surprised that she asked me that." Well, no, she wasn't, because they had already discussed it before. She knew she would ask for that. But so right there, then she admits that she lies. Gayle King is very upset over it, because at that point she's like, okay, if you're lying over this, then what else did you lie about? Because why would you lie about this when the man is already convicted? Why are you lying? It doesn't matter. And so there was a lot of inconsistencies for me when again, as someone who is approached about this man, doesn't have a past understanding of Tory's music, doesn't have any of that. But I look in this and I look as a whole at the case. That is your job as someone like me who's coming in, of anyone, when you're asked to look into a situation, to say, would you recommend? Would you support that person? You look at it as a whole and say, okay, let me pick this entire situation apart. And I played devil's advocate from top to bottom with the entire case. I asked him every tough question you should ask. Right. I asked it over and over and over. I mean, he'll tell you when you interview him one day when he is out of prison, and you ask him, and he'll say, Diana was my toughest critic. Right. Because I asked him. You went through everything. I went through everything. I mean, I tore it apart. And I'm like, well, what about this, Tory? What about this? Right. Well, why this? Why that? And Tory his story has remained the same. It has never changed. Right. But if you look at other people in this case, we released that website, 36hourslater.com, which was a play on, the culture that was like going after Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, because she said, in 36 hours, I'm going to drop new evidence. Well, she did have new evidence, but the way it was construed. So, the culture went like nuts on her. So we played on the culture and did 36hourslater.com just, to kind of troll them. But really. So the website is 36hourslater.com. And it is all the evidence in Tory's case and unseen evidence. A lot of this evidence was never released outside of court. Right. And so we went through his discovery, and some of it was the first time I had seen it too, and some of his appeal people. We were looking at these videos, and the amount of time that Megan says that she steps on glass, she says it multiple times to multiple people after she told Gayle that the reason why she said that is because George Floyd was going on and she was stepping out of the car and she was afraid they were going to get shot. But it didn't make any sense because she's sitting on the curb after Tory had basically said her pet name, like, Meg, it's going to be okay. And she's sitting on there, and the police officer asked her, like, well, you were shot. And she said, no, I wasn't shot. I stepped on glass. And right. But she does, when she first is approached about it by the police officer, which at that point the situation was de-escalated. People were just trying to figure out what happened. Mm-hmm. And she's sitting there, and the first thing that the officer, when he says something to her, and the lady officer, Megan says, are we going to get arrested? And the lady says, well, I don't know. We're just trying to figure out what happened. She's like, well, this is not going to be good for my image. That's all she cared. Well, okay, let me
Yeah,
ask you a question.
I saw that.
If I was just shot, I wouldn't give a shit what my image looked like. I'd be like, that mother effer shot me, and that's what needs to be told. I mean, why in the world, if you were just shot, I don't care who you were, I would be like, he shot me, and this is what happened. But she consistently kept saying, I wasn't shot, even in the hospital. After she was already there, at that point, they were, again, just said, are you good? And she's just like, no, I stepped on glass. And she just kept repeating the same thing, that she stepped on glass.
So the question is, was Megan Thee Stallion shot? And if she was shot, who shot Megan Thee Stallion?
Well,
this is the question, the $1 million question, right?
I'm going to defer to what the evidence says and to what a guy who came forward and said, and this is what brought this up. So what the new evidence was in this case that really kind of broke this back open was an affidavit from the security guard and driver of Kelsey Harris, the assistant to Meg Thee Stallion, on the 2 days of her testimony at trial. Okay. So Bradley is, I think his last name's Cooper. He is the driver of Kelsey Harris the 2 days, again, I'm repeating this so you understand. He is the driver of Kelsey the 2 days that she is testifying in the trial, okay? Bradley is working for the security firm, and he is not in the trial. He is outside. He just chauffeurs her to lunch. He takes her home. He drives her, but he's not sitting inside of the courtroom, okay? He doesn't know a hill of what's going on. He's not examining testimony, nothing. He's sitting out there doing his job. Bradley comes about a year later after Tory gets sentenced and he's sitting in jail. And he goes and he contacts someone and he says, listen, my girlfriend has really encouraged me to come forward. She didn't know actually who the client was. He never told her who the client was, but he just said, this has been eating me alive for a year because I know that there's an innocent man sitting in prison right now. And I know it for firsthand. So she's like, well, then you need to go forward. Like you need to go talk to someone. So he goes and contacts Tory's attorneys at the time. And they said, oh, okay, well, come on into the office. Let's talk about it. And, you can sign an affidavit. So he comes in and he sits down and he says, listen, I witnessed, from her, she's on the phone with her boyfriend at the time and also her attorneys there. And they're all discussing, he's taken her to lunch during the trial. And she starts by saying, how do I say this without telling on myself? And I don't understand. Remember, they gave Kelsey immunity for while she was on the stand. Why? Why does someone need immunity if they're innocent? I mean, ask yourself.
That's what I was going to ask you about too.
This is why she needed immunity. So she's talking to, and her boyfriend and her attorney at this time is telling her about how immunity works. Nope, you're fully immune. You can't be held accountable for anything that you say. Like you have immunity. So she begins to tell them like, well, this is what happened. I shot the gun 3 times in the air. Tory slams, comes around and it slams the, pushes my arm down and 2 more shots go off. And he says, I witnessed Kelsey. I directly heard her say this, and he goes on to describe that. He doesn't know that what he is doing is he's completely giving the exact count to a Ring video that was also in trial, that you hear the shots going off. In that Ring video, you hear 3 shots go off, a pause, and 2 shots go. That matches exactly what he's saying. He doesn't know any of this.
Right.
And he actually doesn't know that the original testimony of an eyewitness who watched it happen, Sean Kelly, he was the original guy. Sean's original statement, which we released on 36 hours later on the website, the body cam footage of him being interviewed. And he says 3 shots go off, there's a pause, 2 shots. What he also says is this: 2 girls were fighting, and they were. Kelsey and Megan had just gotten to a knockdown, drag out fist fight. If you look at the videos and the the photos that we released on the website, you see all over Kelsey's legs. They're all of these scratch marks, like bloody scratch marks.
Wow.
They were in a knockdown drag out. And over Tory, because Tory had basically just exposed that he slept with both of them. It was really nasty. They were pissed off. They were drunk as hell.
So they didn't know that he had been romantic with both of them.
No, they did not know. Well, Kelsey did not know. Megan knew.
Oh,
but Megan
Kelsey was with Tory first.
Yes, Kelsey and Tory had a relationship for years, like a sexual relationship,
and everyone knew it.
And everybody knew that. Okay. Correct. But Megan did told Tory not to tell Kelsey.
Allegedly,
it was messy. If you listen to Tory's lyrics when he talks about this, from what I'm told, Tory was like a hot commodity at that moment,
right.
And Megan liked Tory, right? So if there's any other woman there that's like kind of feeling him too, I think there's a little bit of a jealousy. Now, nothing happened.
So was Tory romantic with Kylie?
No, okay. Never.
So they were just hanging out.
Everybody was just hanging out.
Okay.
But I think that there was some jealousy going on there, for sure.
I wonder, did the fight start at her house or not until they were in the vehicle?
The fight didn't start until they were in the vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah, and it got heated. It got escalated. They're ragging on each other. Yeah, I think they're just wiling it. Tory gets pissed, and he basically has enough, and he's like, "Listen, I'm effing both of you. Like, I'm sleeping with you both. She knows it. You know that she knows. And she told me not to tell you because
then that's when it broke out.
And then that's when it went crazy. According to one eyewitness, his original testimony, Sean Kelly, and why this is as important as this. Sean Kelly, when he is being interviewed by the cops about his statement, he says he witnesses two women fighting outside of, he witnesses two women fighting, and then he sees the woman shoot the gun into the car. That's what he's saying. So that's the original witness. That story stuck even on the stand. But then they took him off the stand, took him in the back. This is during trial. And he comes back and his story completely changes. And everybody's like, what the hell? Like, Tory's defense is like, what the hell happened? Well, you tell me. The guy's story was the same. The guy tells the story, and now the guy is nowhere to be found. He moved to England. I mean,
so the guy moved to England?
Yeah, the guy moved to England.
Now, this was the driver? Or which guy? The other guy?
This was the eyewitness.
The eyewitness, okay.
Yeah, he moved.
So he just moved.
He's gone, yeah.
Why do you think he moved away?
Well, I mean, you tell me. I don't know. I mean,
it's just
it's
this whole situation is just so crazy.
Well, it is, and again, people ask me. It's not just me. There are a lot of people who have gotten involved in this, right? I just put the team together. So when Tory came to me, back to when you asked me why I got involved, so one thing that people need to understand is I'm not an attorney, right? But I deal with a lot of attorneys. Mm-hmm. And it's my job when people come to me and they're saying, Di, listen, I'm in trouble. This is not wrong. Help me. What do I need to do? And I say, okay, well, we're going to put the right team together. Not every attorney is good for everything, right? It's got to be the right attorneys. But I didn't know Tory during that time. Mm-hmm. I met him when he was in prison at this point. So, but when people come to me, it's my job to deal directly with attorneys. And so I went to some of the best attorneys that I know. These people are Trump's attorneys. Mm-hmm. There are a lot. So I had multiple big attorneys review the case in a whole. All the docs that I was looking at that Tory gave me, I had them review it after I reviewed. I'm like, give me your thoughts. And they're like, this is wild. This guy's innocent. Not one attorney came back to me. And these people are not getting paid. They're just doing it.
They were just checking it out.
They're looking it out for me. And I'm saying, what are your thoughts about this? Because I think he's innocent. And they're like, this is wild. And I'm like, well, you tell me what's wild. The gun, the casings disappeared during trial. The fingerprints, they completely sealed the gun. Why? They sealed this gun and cleaned the gun. Basically, they can't get any more DNA from this gun, but nobody else has been fingerprinted. Why? Like, all these things, none of it made sense. Why?
So they cleaned the gun?
Meaning that they got all the DNA off of the gun, and now the gun is like, you can't swab the gun anymore. All the DNA's been off of it. The only problem is that The only problem is that Tory is 100% exonerated from the magazine of the gun. So now they can't go and re-fingerprint other people to find on the gun because he's exonerated. So the very person that they said it was his gun, an unregistered gun, because you got to remember he got 3 different counts. One was basically he was, even though the gun was unregistered, so they never at that point could actually say who the gun was. Mm-hmm. We know, we can't say yet, but we have a very good idea of who we believe the gun was. And
wait, so
the gun was not in Tory's possession,
so the
but
gun
they got
wasn't
him for the gun.
So the gun didn't belong to Tory.
No, it was not Tory's gun.
Okay.
And he was exonerated from the gun. So don't you think that if this is your weapon, that they would find your fingerprints on this weapon? Wouldn't be the only time you ever, and there was no gloves involved. They never even accused him of a glove. They didn't accuse him of any of that. They said they got him, they charged him for in possession of an unregistered gun, of a firearm. That was that's one of his main charges, okay? With an intent to insult, right? To assault someone with an unregistered firearm. But really the meat of those charges are in possession of an unregistered firearm for like an assault that was used in an assault.
Right.
But the thing is that...
So he's not being charged with like attempted murder or anything. Right.
He never got charged for any of that. But what else made this bad was that type of charge would only, in any sentencing, would usually be at about 3 to 5 years, 5 at the max, but really it's about 2 to 3 years that person would serve. Okay. Right. For that type of offense, that would be what Tory would have.
And he got 10.
Normal. Yes, he got 10. Why? Let's go to the politics of this. This is why this is important. And again, this is why I got involved, because this is not normal. They added a gun enhancement onto the charge. Gun enhancements in California. All right, let's go back to the politics. At the time that this is going on, there is a very contentious DA race going on by a guy named George Gascon, which is at that point, a very corrupt prosecutor, not well liked at all. The crime in LA has just seized under this guy's, and he ran on being basically soft on crime. Like, he's not aggressive. He uses it almost as race bait, right? Like, the system is racist against Black people, and we believe you need to be soft on crime. He also runs against gun enhancements. He says that they are racist.
Now, wait,
right?
when you say gun enhancement, what do you mean? Like a silencer, or what do you mean?
No,
exactly?
A gun enhancement is on a charge. So if you catch a charge...
I thought you meant like an enhancement on the actual gun. Like
basically, on his sentence, they enhanced it. They made it more. That means they could add more time onto something.
Oh, I see.
But
okay.
what Gascon, when he campaigned on gun enhancements, he says, I don't like gun enhancements. I think they're racist, and I think they should only be used against gang members, violent offenders who are repeat offenders.
Okay.
Why is that important? Because Tory had no criminal record. He was not in a gang. He was never accused of ever being violent.
Right.
He didn't have any criminal record.
He was a singer.
Of that. He was a singer, but he didn't have a criminal record. He had never been convicted of any.
So he didn't have a criminal record.
No, he had no criminal record. Okay, and that's important because so they gave him 10 years. They added a gun enhancement on something that this
as if he might have been a violent criminal or a gang member.
Well, yes, because gun enhancements are reserved for only gang members, violent repeat offenders.
Right.
So why on earth did Tory get a gun enhancement on his charge?
So why do you think like they went so hard on Tory?
Well, I think that they were making an example out of him. And this is what, okay, listen, I'm not going to get into the conspiracies. Go online and you'll read why people think, okay? Mm-hmm. You can look at the climate in the country at the time. The Me Too movement is happening. The George Floyd stuff is happening. The contention of the election with the DA was happening. He wanted to use he was losing in the polls. Mm-hmm. There was a very popular guy named Nathan Hochman that was running. He was an independent, but very good reputation. He was winning. He wanted to use originally also, most people don't know this, when they originally, the original DA before Gascon actually declined to prosecute Tory's case.
Oh,
He said
really?
there's not enough evidence here there's not enough evidence for a case here. But someone persuaded him to do that case. And it just so happened that he needed some public case to give him publicity, which is wild. So Tory's case went from being, we don't want to pursue this, to full-fledged pursuing, and so many of his rights were violated through that. So you look at the political aspect of it too, and you ask yourself, why did the original DA in this case deny that they were not going to pursue this? And then why all of a sudden did they pursue it, and then pursue it so hotly and so rushed and so
Right.
sloppy, and and then gag him? I mean, none of it makes sense. I mean,
There's so much like surrounding this
the
case.
Menendez
It's
brothers
crazy.
got more of due process than Tory did, and they slaughtered their parents. I mean, gruesomely. And Tory didn't slaughter anyone, and nobody died. And it's
Right.
questionable what happened, if anybody was actually shot or not. It's all again, ask the questions. My thing to you is, go ask those questions. Go look at the evidence yourself, and you ask those questions.
Well, I want to know. So, what updates can you share with us?
Yeah. So, well, let's talk before we get into the update, because I know everybody wants.
Yeah. Before we get into
And I got
that.
those updates. And and I could have sent anyone else out, but nobody tells it like I do. And so Tory said, you got to get out and you got to talk about it.
And before
I
you
will talk
tell
about
the update, you have an update that has not been released yet.
Yeah. So I have actually two updates that haven't
Two
been
updates.
released. Let's talk about the gruesome video that got leaked.
Yeah, let's talk about that because,
Mm-hmm.
for the people that don't know, Tory Lanez was stabbed, I think, 14 times?
14 times, but he has
In prison.
27. Most people don't know this. He was stabbed 14 times, but he was actually slashed 27 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 27 times, but stabbed 14 times.
And is it true that he was stabbed like in his head, too?
Yes, in his face, 2 in the back
How
of his
did
neck,
he, man,
in his lungs.
he must be meant to still be on this
It is
earth
God's-
because
it
that
is
is
God's
God.
plan.
Yeah, like
Well, all of this is God's
a lot
plan
of people
for Tory.
cannot survive that many stabbings. That's crazy.
No, and you look at the video that got leaked, and you look at the picture. I mean, it's. I mean, I remember. I mean, just so people understand, like, I was not a fan of Tory. I didn't listen to his music prior to this. He
Mhm.
wasn't someone that I followed, but through getting to know him, I mean, he's just become like a brother in a sense. I care deeply about who he is, because he is a very good man, and he helps so many people, and people don't even know that. That man is getting people out of prison. His own money. He started Hands of Hope, a foundation where he pays for the legal fees of people who are maybe going through appeals and fighting them, and they don't have the financial needs to do that. And he does that on his own. He takes his own money, and he's had success with that. A man just the other week got out of prison because of Tory's foundation. And this man he supports and pays for so many people in prison. And his heart is just, he's a prayer warrior. And every time we talk, he says, okay, Di, let's pray. I mean, the man is just, he's in deep prayer. So,
Isn't his dad like a minister or
yeah,
something? Yeah.
Sunstar.
And
And you
he-
can see where Tory gets his talent, because his dad is, he's like, as almost like a poet, but just a man.
I met
prayer
Tory a
warrior.
couple of times. He was really nice.
Yeah.
He was really nice when I met him a few times, and he seems like a good guy. And yeah, so I know. So before we get into the update, let's
Mhm.
talk about this stabbing.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the stabbing? I mean, I know it was
Yeah.
14 times slash. You said 22,
Yeah. 27.
27.
Actual stabs.
And
Okay.
who was this guy that stabbed him?
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that, because TMZ should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. So let me tell you about this. It was the guy that was in the cell right next to him.
Mhm.
Okay, this guy is a member of the Mexican MM13, not MS13, MM13, the Mexican mafia gang. Okay, the guy is in prison for in the head his 13-year-old girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
This is who this guy is. He's not a good person.
Right.
But this is why there's so much speculation, and you ask yourself the coincidence of the timing, okay? Tory has had zero problems in prison. He gets along with everybody. He's in the Mexican side. Like, most of the people that he's surrounded with are the Mexican side. If anybody knows much about prison, there's actually like a war going on in the prisons nowadays between blacks and Mexicans.
Right.
And that's around the country. It's not
They
not
have
just
all
in
these different groups.
Yeah, it's and I'm and listen, I'm no expert on prison politics, but I'm learning now, okay? I'm learning about the politics of prison,
Yeah.
and there's a lot going on. And so for Tory to be in an area where there's mostly members of the opposite race, it tells you something. It tells you that Tory doesn't have any issues.
Right.
He gets along with everyone. He funds. He helps people. Like he recorded an album in prison that was #1. His new album. I mean, people like him, right?
Right.
Well, all of a sudden, when things were starting to pop a little bit about Tory, we were making some movement. We were starting to talk about it to people about Tory's case, and all of a sudden, a few days after the New York Post, Gianno Caldwell from Fox News, a lot of people know this. He's a good friend of mine, a partner. Gianno had written an op-ed that we were going to release, and the New York Post was going to release that op-ed. And it was going to talk about the new affidavit and some of the evidence in the case that was kind of in light of that affidavit, the questions that they had, and they really wanted to start to question, like, something doesn't seem right about this young man's case, and we want to review it, but this affidavit, this is telling, and if there's an innocent man in prison, then we need to, this needs to be done right. We need to talk about this.
Right.
So they reach out for comment to the camps of Megan Pete, which is her name, Megan Pete, Kelsey Harris, and also Gascon. They reach out for comment. The only people that commented back were the legal team, who are not her team during the prosecution, but her team now. They reached out with a comment. 4 days later, Tory is violent after having zero problems. Tory is violently stabbed when he is walking out of his prison cell for breakfast. You watch the video now, you can see it happen. He walks out of the cell, he stretches, he turns around, and the guy just goes in on him. There was no words like, "Hey, F you, man," nothing. It was like Tory's like, "Hey, man," turns around, the guy just like goes in on him. You see Tory run. Other things you see in that video is just unbelievable. You watch guards, if you're watching them in the camera, they're watching it and just watching it happen.
So the guards aren't even helping.
They're not even doing anything. He runs past them. When you see the picture of them running down the hall, there's this picture and he's bloody. There's these two guards, they're staring at him. They do nothing, and he's like, "Yo, you just gonna watch me die?"
Right.
I mean, he like screams at them, "You just gonna watch me, man?" And they do nothing.
That's crazy.
They do nothing for him. And you ask yourself, okay, now you know the coincidence of the timing doesn't make any sense. Okay? Why?
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden am I having no problems? All of a sudden there's problems? That's questionable. Another thing is, why the hell did these guards break complete protocol when any fight were to break out? And it wasn't even a fight. There was no fight. The guy just meant to kill him, right? Then they break protocol when they're supposed.
Yeah, that wasn't a fight. That was like an attempted assassination.
Yeah. The guy was going to murder him, and why, and who, and what was the benefit? That's the question.
Yeah, did it ever come out of why this guy said he stabbed him?
Well, yeah. Okay, back to this. Tory runs off. Finally, he's bleeding out, right? He's like, come on, I got to get some help here. I'm going to die. Yeah. They finally get him up. They end up airlifting him out because his lungs had collapsed at that point. Yeah. Okay. Well, all of a sudden, when the press does a good job, they're compassionate. They report on Tory. They're calling us left and right. We're all in shock. Like, oh my gosh, we can't communicate with him because, but his dad was able to go to the hospital, and at least he could see his dad at that point and his stepmom because his mother had passed away. But all of a sudden, after a few days where Tory is back, TMZ releases an interview where somehow somebody has given this guy who's in prison for a very egregious thing, they give him a cell phone. Who the hell got this guy's cell phone in the hole that he is? Apparently in the hole. They release an interview on this guy where they give this disgusting, vile human being a platform with millions of people around the world to spread a narrative that somehow this guy felt threatened by Tory, that Tory had spread her, and it was all like hearsay. Well, I heard a rumor around the prison that Tory was after me and wanted to kill me. And I was just afraid for my life. Well, he didn't have beef with Tory. He just said he heard it from someone. The guy was next door to him. Don't you think if you thought the guy had a beef with you, would have said, yo, bro, we good? Like, I hear you're spreading a rumor about me. Another thing that didn't make sense about this interview, okay? He says that Tory's like, going around the prison telling people that, he's going to kill the guy. For what? For what? At this point, why in the hell would Tory want to kill someone when he literally could be pardoned or get out of prison? Like, he has everything to lose at this point. He doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want anything
wants to stay clean
because
and get
he
out.
has people in the high up who are looking at his case. He's got people like me. He's got people who have put their careers on the line to advocate for this man. Why the hell would Tory risk it all for some disgusting guy who's serving life in prison? Why does Tory give a shit about that? No, he doesn't. So that didn't make sense. So he starts to spew this complete lie where he says, Tory spread a rumor about me and he was telling people he was going to kill me. So when I saw Tory, I thought he had a knife in his pocket, and I just went to defend myself. And we're like, what? What is literally happening right now? And TMZ, of all people, give this disgusting, vile human being a platform to spew those lies when this man at that point is in a bed in the hospital fighting for his life. And we have to defend, instead of talking about the well-being of this man who's innocent already and who is a victim of many people in the system who railroaded this guy very clearly. There's Congress people who are interested in this, who have read over this. Why the hell would they want to get involved if they thought this guy was guilty, right? They would stay away from this, but they see it and they're like, yo, this is really egregious. We don't get to cherry pick hysteria on injustice. It, just like Martin Luther King says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so if you can't just cherry pick because it doesn't fit your narrative. No, it's injustice and you should be asking questions. So they're asking questions. So in the meantime, this is happening. TMZ gives this egregious guy a platform and they let him spew his bullshit all over the television. And Tory has to basically defend himself when he's the victim. So it gets better. All of a sudden, a week later, we get TMZ contacts us and they're asking us if we can verify the video that they have of Tory's stabbing. And we're like, what? What do you mean verify the video? How did you get a copy of a jail video from a prison of a violent stabbing and photos? How did you get that?
Right.
Well, they bought it. So,
oh, wow.
Okay, so let me just clarify this. The very man who's innocent in prison, because a lot of it is because of the media who completely villainized this guy and made him into a monster, never let him tell his story. The courts silenced him, didn't let him tell his story. They ran amok with his case and listen, he was just the murderous guy. I mean, that's just what they wanted to say. Violent criminal, even though he didn't have a criminal past. You try to use his lyrics against him, which is illegal in the state of California. So when people ask why Tory never testified, well, first of all, when they didn't want him to testify, the prosecution didn't want him to testify. So they told his attorney and Tory, if you testify, game on. We're going to ask you about your lyrics. We're going to ask you about everything. I mean, they were just going to tear him apart over that. And at that point, it was like, well, why is he even going to testify?
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Why didn't he testify? So they didn't want him to because they felt like, that. Well,
they didn't want him to tell the story.
What actually
happened.
Right.
What actually happened.
And why do you think? Because so at the beginning of this, was Tory like trying to protect everybody? Like, why did everyone like lie about what happened? Was it just because was he trying to protect like everybody? Or
well, and I'm going to let Tory tell his full story when he gets out, and I'll give an update on that. But Tory has always remained the same from the very beginning. One, his innocence. And the one reason, also people don't realize Tory voluntarily gave his DNA. Because, because they were like, would you come in and do a swab? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because he knew that his fingerprints weren't on that gun. It wasn't his gun. But he always said from the very beginning, he was protecting 2 Black women. He was a mom. He grew up without his mom. His mom died at a young age. And, he there was one person at the time who, was pregnant, and, he just was protecting them both. If you look in the video footages from the cops, when you see the video footages, you see Tory, two of them. One, when he's standing and they're asking him, and Meg's standing right there, and he's like, you know, I'm just, just trying to protect my girl. That's what he said. And he was like, Meg, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Like, you see him in the video footage acknowledge he's calling her by her pet name that he calls her. Well, I'm sorry, if you just shot someone, I don't think you'd be saying much at all, right? You'd be like, where's my attorney? Where's my attorney, right? He never says that. He voluntarily goes in that night. He voluntarily, and when they're asking him, and when they're interviewing him, when he's in the station and they're like, what happened? He was like, man, I just wanted to protect my girl. And he's talking about Megan, like, he's not saying anything. And he's talking about Kelsey too. Like, he doesn't want to throw Kelsey under the bus.
So at first everything was good, right? Because it was like everyone was like not saying
Megan
anything
didn't
about
even want
anyone.
to press charges against him. You got to remember, Megan did not press charges against Tory. She never pursued a charge. People don't know that. Right. They think she did.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. Like, what went from wrong? Like,
I know things, but I'm not going to say them because, people, in order for those things to come out, people have to come on the record and say that. And so it would be speculation. But, I know things. I know people who've come to me directly that know things, but they're too afraid to say things. And so I'm not going to say them. But what I will say is this. One would
now, when you say afraid, why are they afraid? Just because, like, they don't want to get involved?
Yeah, I just think there's
afraid for their life, or what do you mean?
I don't know if they're afraid for their life or maybe their career. There's a lot of powerful people involved in these situations.
Right. I mean, this situation is very sensitive.
Very sensitive, but there are a lot of powerful people that are involved.
There are,
and record labels and all those types of things. And I don't know why people do what they do. I mean, I'm not personally, for me, I wouldn't understand, because I'm not really afraid of anyone. I mean, as long as you
don't ever get afraid dealing with all these high profile cases.
I mean, this is the thing. I would be afraid if I had something to worry about. But this is how I feel about it. This is why people like me are important. And I'm not saying
that like, because you have so much courage, you're helping so many people.
Right. And I'm not saying this to
we
toot
need
myself.
people like you,
right, but
that
like, we can't all be afraid to speak truth to power or to powerful people. We cannot be afraid. And if my courage of stepping up, I have nothing really to gain from this. Tory isn't paying me. I would never take a dime from this man right now, because I don't believe in profiting off of somebody's like misery, right? But it is the right thing to do. And so for me, if everybody was too afraid to speak truth, then there would be a lot of innocent people that would be sitting in prison right now. But I'll say this, because I know this is kind of a sidetrack, but a lot of people say, why in the world do people even care about what's going on with Tory Lanez? A jury convicted him. Well, do you know how many juries have gotten it wrong? And that people, like, think about the Central Park 5. Right? The young men that were wrongfully convicted of murdering someone in Central Park. Even the president of the United States had come out against them during that time in history in New York. It was a terrible situation. And they ended up getting exonerated because of DNA. Right? And so there's so hundreds and hundreds of cases of juries that are, you got to remember, the juries are convicting on what they have in front of them right then.
Right.
And Tory wasn't allowed to enter. Some evidence was denied for him to enter. People that he tried to have his bodyguard that night testify. They didn't allow his bodyguard to testify. There's so many things that was denied to him, and they're convicting off of what they see in front of them.
Why wasn't his bodyguard allowed to testify?
They didn't let him testify. They denied that from him.
I wonder why, though.
Well, again, it's
so weird. Like, I don't really get all of this.
Well, that's exactly it, because his bodyguard would have been able to, again, back up what Tory had said. But he was denied so many things. Even, Tory was reminding me of this today when I was talking to him prior to the interview. And he said, a lot of people don't even realize is that the sentencing guidelines, the guidelines of conviction that the jury were given when they were having to consider, were even messed up. They were wrong. What they were thinking they were supposed to rule on is not what they were supposed to rule on. And so even that was messed up on his sentencing. There's just so many things about his case that if it was anyone else would have never passed the smell test. But
do you think that, like, because you've worked with Trump and you've done a lot in part. Do you think Trump could like pardon him?
No, he can't because this is a state
It's a state
issue.
case.
It's a state case. It's not a federal case.
So it's no
Otherwise,
way
if
to.
it was a federal case, he would already be pardoned because at this point, Trump would have pardoned. I mean, I'm not going to speak for the president because the president would have ultimately had to decide. But there's so many of us that would have been able to advocate, and Trump would have saw this for exactly what it is. I mean, he's pardoned a lot of people recently too, and Trump would have seen this.
I saw he recently pardoned the Chrisleys. And actually, Chase Chrisley, a really good friend of mine. I've known him for a lot of years.
Yeah,
I love them. So
I was just with her like a few days before, we were at what used to be called the Trump Hotel, but now it's the Waldorf Astoria in DC.
Amazing! I actually threw
so
Chase
well-deserved.
Chrisley his birthday party back in the day.
You did?
Back in Atlanta when I lived in
funny.
Atlanta. But no, I want to ask you because I saw that she was talking about this case.
She did. She's our new lead investigator. Wink, wink. Just kidding, but
Oh, nice. But so I don't get it though. So the president can't pardon a state case. It has to be a federal case.
It has to be a federal case because it's a state charge, right?
So it's all up to the individual
it's all up.
states.
So okay, then
is there a way to turn a state case federal?
No, and nor would you want to.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay,
You don't want the
that's
feds
bad.
involved. That's complicated.
Okay.
So Well, I'll give you an update on Tory.
Wait. All right, so are we going to get the update now?
Yeah, I'll tell
All
you.
right, can we get a drum roll?
But I did. But don't forget that these. About the video. This is why it's egregious to me. The very people that helped put him in prison, I'm not saying TMZ helped put him in prison, but the media helped put him in prison, silenced that man, never gave his story, are the same very people who have been profiting off of him ever since he's been in prison. They allow them to just print stupid, ridiculous lies all day about him supposedly harassing her and all this crap. I mean, how the hell do you get a restraining order on someone who's in prison? Makes no sense to me, but they've been harassing the hell out of this man. Okay. They profited off of his situation where we start to advocate for a pardon or at least a reevaluation of his case. Okay. So they profit off of that. Then they profit off of his stabbing by purchasing a video from what we are under the impression that a video has been purchased from a guard in the prison that he's in. So they profit off of that. Not only that, that same video was shopped to other people who were then reaching out to our team in the middle of the night, trying to hustle Tory for $500,000 for a video that had already been sold to other outlets. These people are profiting off this man who they villainize, they put in prison, villainize, continue to villainize him, but yet they are fine with profiting off of his situation where he's fighting for his life in prison. Have no shame. And then in the same breath, after they're profiting off this man, they give a platform to a disgusting human being who almost killed him. So then they discredit the man and him getting stabbed and try to make it seem like it's his fault. But then in the same breath, they go and buy a video of his stabbing and then profit off the damn video. And what is this guy getting from that? He's already in prison for something he didn't do, but then everybody else is getting rich off of this guy's misery. And that is an injustice in itself, and everybody should be disgusted by that alone.
Wow. So this tape of the stabbing tape, a lot of people saw it. It went viral online.
Yeah.
And who tried to sell it to Tory for $500,000?
Well, I'm not going to say who tried to sell it. I'm just going to say there are people who were reaching out to our team.
Was this before it was released?
This was before it was
released. So it was
released.
more like, hey, give us this money and then you can have it. We won't release it.
Exactly. Well, you
probably would have got released anyway, honestly.
Well, it already been. Well, see, what was sad about it was now we know that those people already knew that other news outlets had paid for that video.
Oh,
and
so they were trying to resell it.
They were trying to sell it to him under the not knowing. You know what I mean? That is what made me more angrier than anything, because I'm like, I've been through this journey with this guy already with the injustice and knowing alone that they ripped this guy away from his family, from his child, from his career, did not give him fair justice. So he's sitting there, and then now all this crap is happening to him, and they're profiting off of it. I don't know about you, but it just makes me sick. It should make anyone sick.
You know, in the comments I was reading when the stabbing happened, that there were a lot of people who were saying, and this disturbed me, they were like, oh, this is all staged, so people will feel sorry for him and he'll get out. Like, no one stages an attack and stabbing, bro. Like, you can literally get stabbed one time in like not even your heart, and you can still die from it. You know, it's easy. It's so many. No one would stage that. What's like people
I
are
could think
weird.
of a lot of other things that Tory would probably want to do than be stabbed with.
Yeah, like people are
I mean, especially how
crazy.
he was,
Yeah.
right? In the face. You know, these are things that he'll have to look at the rest of his life. And why on earthly would he want that to happen? No, that is absolutely absurd. And even giving that guy a platform who stabbed him, he didn't deny that he stabbed him. But he said,
Right.
oh, I thought I saw a knife in Tory's pocket. Tory didn't have a knife. I mean, you watch the video and you see Tory like goes out of his cell, he stretches, he goes over the rail, you know, he's just stretching, turns around, hey guys just goes ham on him. I mean, how does that look like a threat? That doesn't match what that guy said. We believe he's innocent. We believe that the evidence proves that he's innocent. We don't want him just commutated. We want him pardoned. We believe the evidence speaks for itself. So that's what's happening now. That's why that petition that went live that petition got close to 300,000 signatures within like 3 days.
Yeah.
And now it's close to like 390 or something now. We're pushing 400. Major celebrities like Drake and Chris Brown and all of these guys jumped out and just said free Tory, you know, right off the bat. That's significant.
Yeah, that is big.
I mean, I could run down the names. I mean, international artists, millions of followers, and you know, people like Snoop Dogg and you know, all of these people, they are very supportive of Tory.
And you work with Snoop as well.
And I know Snoop, you know, very well, and he's a good man, and he, you know, he really cares for Tory. You know, I'll say this. I don't know if he'll get mad if I say it or not, but oh well. But you know, right after Tory got stabbed, you know, they called me and they were like, we want to talk to him. Can we talk to him? You know, Snoop wants to talk to him, and I said, but no, you can't talk to him because he's in the hospital. But they were very concerned and they were angry. Yeah. Because they know that Tory is innocent, and that, you know, that hurts them too, right? You know, that's their brother, and they don't want to see that happen to Tory, and they know he's got such a bright future, and they want to work with him, right?
Right.
And so, you know, they were very concerned, and everybody did. You know, 50 Cent, all these guys, they all, even though some speak out and some don't, but you know, a lot of these people understand what's happened to Tory, and they were very sympathetic and called. You know, so the culture as a whole just like really reached out.
Right. So what is the basically the newest evidence that would prove his innocence?
Yeah.
Would it be like the guy that came forward, or what is the newest evidence? What do we got?
The newest evidence was the affidavit.
The affidavit
that came
okay.
forward. Yeah, that was the new piece of evidence. Nobody that was
and when
not
did that
in
come
trial,
forward?
And that was this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date. But that was this year, and it had not been released to the public yet. And the reason, and people were like complaining about, well, why hasn't it been filed in court? Because it came forward after the appeal had been submitted. And in order for, at that point, the appeal has been successful so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what most people don't understand is that if they were to enter in that again, that entire appeals process would start over. They would have to do reconsideration. They would have to file for a writ to get that information in there. That could take 6 months. I mean, this is a big process. And at this point, just off of the evidence alone of his fingerprints being 100% exonerated from the magazine, like all of that evidence alone, and the handling of his case and all of that alone is enough for a successful appeal. And so this evidence just elevates it anymore. So that's why we were saying this is new evidence that's come forward, because in light of him getting stabbed, we decided to release that, because at first we weren't going to release it. We were just going to go through the pardon process and present that appeal, or present that affidavit in the pardon process, which has been presented already. But when he got stabbed, we said, hey, listen, the public needs to know, actually, this has come forward and you guys just don't know about it yet. So that's the new evidence. But also what's kind of semi-new is, not really new as in facts, but new to the public, is all of that footage from his discovery that nobody saw. Nobody saw a lot of those body cam footages where Megan is stepping on a glass, and you hear all of the officers say, oh, she just stepped on glass. You hear 4 different officers from 4 different angles say, oh, she stepped on glass. She's bleeding. I mean, they say that multiple times. You see the glass bottle fall out of the like SUV. You see her get out. At that point, you don't see anything on her feet at that point, but you see her step on the glass and then start to hop, right?
Mhm.
And then where the cut is an exact of where, like, when you would step on a bottle, the side of it. So one would ask, like, she said she stepped on glass. You see her step on glass. She says it multiple times, even in the hospital, that she stepped on glass. The original doctor that treated her, you see this in the 36 hours later. Go look at this. This is not my words. These are actual court document. These are actual words from the doctor. He originally treated her for glass in her foot. That's what he treated her on. But then days later, the story changed and they said they operated her and she had fragments in her foot. But the original doctor said he treated her for what was glass in her foot. Okay, that was the original statement. Go look at it on 36 hours later. That's not my word. That's the police words. So, yes. So this is what I want to say as an update. For who I am and what I know and the system that I am involved in, Tory Lanez will be freed this year. I just want you to know that.
So Tory's getting out.
Tory is getting out.
Let's go.
Okay.
Now hold on. So we have it here. So Tory is getting free.
But I put together this team, and I knew that Tory was innocent, and I knew it was going to take people that understood California and the process there, and that it was going to take us who understood the media and those who could get out and talk about it too. So putting together a strategic team, I was very strategic about the people that I put together. And I wanted those people to know this process and to understand Tory's case and to understand what happened to him, that we're able to advocate. And those people are doing that. And there are legal processes that have to happen. So when Tory is freed, what you will know is this. There are so many people that have been involved in this that are legal experts in these matters, and habeas and lots of different things. These people would only get involved if they actually, factually, legally believed he was innocent. They would not put their name on this. They wouldn't advocate to the governor. They wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
So these are pretty higher ups.
These are very high people that understand the law, have worked within, the sphere of government. They have successfully helped pardon people. These people looked at this and were like, yes, this guy is innocent.
So if you had to guess, when do you think Tory is going to be released?
I don't know the date, but it will be this year.
Do you think it could be like this summer?
It will be soon. So
You hear it, guys. So, all right. I'm going to be honest.
Haters are going to hate, but it doesn't matter.
When Tory gets out, like, he's going to be huge. Like,
I hope he does.
I heard that there's rumors that, he'll be working with Snoop or Death Row.
Yeah, well, listen, I'll let Snoop and Tory break that on their own. But, listen, I know that in Tory's, you hear Suge from prison. He talks about all the time. He was on TMZ and, Pierce Morgan, which I think is so funny to me. Like, Suge is like on Pierce Morgan all the time. Like, it's so random. He's just in prison, chilling, calling Pierce, talking about Tory, talking about Diddy. Like, sounds like he's having the best time of his life over there, in my opinion. Anyways, just kidding. Suge.
Weren't you on Pierce Morgan too?
No, I wasn't, but I set it up. I try to only do
set it up?
interviews.
Okay.
Yeah. But Anna Paulina Luna was on, and also Amber Rose. And so they've been involved and they're good friends. And, I'm very thankful for their voices, because that's a lot of hate that they get for that,
Right.
and they stuck their neck out because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so Suge, he's on it. He's talking about it. Like, he believes that Tory will probably be this generation's Tupac. I don't know very many people who.
That's what Suge Knight said.
Yeah, Suge said he thinks he'll be bigger than Pac. I mean, Tory talks about it in his lyrics, right?
As far as Megan is concerned, what do you think Megan's strongest argument that will be the hardest for, Tory's team to overcome to be freed?
This is the thing. And I'll speak for Tory on this, because he has said this, and so has his father. This is not about Megan. Megan did not pursue those charges against Tory. The DA's office did. So it's not about Megan. I do not villainize Megan. I wish her the best. Tory prays for her, and so does his father. Everybody's victims in this situation. Nobody has won from this. But it's not about Megan. It's about Tory, and that's my focus. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about her. I don't care about any of them. I care about Tory, because Tory is the victim in this. He is innocent. And I don't care what anyone else says. I care about what the evidence says. I care about those who are legal professionals have told me. I care about all the other people that know a lot of things about a lot of things who haven't said anything, but have come forward. I care about these testimonies. And it shows, I mean, on 36 hours later on that website, it doesn't get much clearer of Tory's innocence. Don't take my word from it. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. You look at it at yourself and you will come to the conclusion. You come to your own conclusion. Don't take my word. Don't take anyone else's word. Come to the own conclusion. But in my opinion, that evidence overwhelmingly proves, and even her own attorneys that were not even the attorneys in her case who have come out and talked, they say the same thing. A jury of his peers in California convicted him over overwhelming evidence, and that is just not the case. First of all, there have been many juries that have wrongfully convicted people, and they have come back and they have been exonerated. Okay, so you can't use that statement. That's ridiculous. There are a lot of people who have been wrongfully accused, and it doesn't mean that the jury had ill intent to do that. They just weren't given all the evidence. And the sentencing guidelines that they were given were just inaccurate. And there was a lot of inaccuracies in this case. And honestly, Tory was damned from the beginning. They were not going to give him a fair trial. They had already made their decision, not the jury, but the system in general. And so regarding her, I don't wish her any harm. But at this point, Tory is innocent, and I care about him because really he's the victim in this. And I want him to go on to have a good life. And I want him to be able to overcome this and to be able to walk into any door that he ever wants to walk in, because he deserves that, in my opinion.
So how do you feel about Tory being released?
I think it's a good idea. I think he's an innocent man, and I think seeing the facts and what Diana has discovered with the team, I don't see the reason why the governor of California wouldn't do it.
Billy has been around, like when Tory will call, and he was there when Giano first got an opportunity to talk to Tory on
And
the
you
phone.
talk with Tory today before the interview?
Yeah, I talk to him every day.
Oh, you talk every day?
Yeah, I talk every
wow.
single day to Tory. And,
So how is he doing now since he's recovering from the stabbing? How's he doing?
He's doing good. He's in good spirits. His body he's trying to when you get stabbed, your muscles will harden, right? And so it's important that you move. So he's moving.
And can he walk now?
Yep, he can walk, and so he's walking around.
Can he fully walk normal?
Yeah, he can walk normal, and he's recovering well.
Yo, he's recovering well.
Yo,
Imagine being
beast.
stabbed that many times.
No, it is God's hand
Yeah.
in Tory's life, because Tory is mentally very strong, and he knows what it takes to recover. And the biggest thing for him is he has to move, right? So he's always moving. He's out in the yard, walking, trying to work out, because the only way that he's really going to fully be able to recover is if he keeps his muscles, like growing and they're not stiff. It's like when you get old and you don't move and lift weights. It's the same thing when you have
if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So
so he's doing that.
So where's he staying now? Is he in a different jail, or is it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So Tory got moved to a different prison,
a whole
called
nother
CBT,
facility,
a whole nother county. He's not even anywhere near where he was.
And is he put alone or still in
so
general pop?
Well, he was alone before, but in general population, but he had his own cell, and now he has his own cell again.
But they still have to go out and do things.
He does, but they watch him, and but again,
they're protecting him now.
Well, I mean, they were supposed to be protecting him before. You know what
That's
I mean?
true,
I mean,
yeah.
he didn't have any problems. That's what I'm trying to say. He doesn't have issues.
He wasn't beefing with anybody.
No, he wasn't beefing with anyone. I mean, and so he's not beefing with anyone now. It's supposed to be a better situation, so we're hoping. But
is he still in fear for his life?
I don't think he was in fear for his life then.
Right.
Tory doesn't live in fear. That is one thing about that man. He does not live in fear. And he's strong, and every time I feel like when he's talking to me, he's over here consoling me, like, Di, everything's good. I'm like, you sure?
He's strong.
You're looking on your back. He's like, Di, it's all good. Don't worry about it. God's got me, Di. Like, we're good. So every time I talk to him, you'll never hear him fear for his life. Listen, it was so interesting when he got stabbed and he was laying there and he was like, really, God? this is how you're going to take me out. You know, it was just like, he told me, I was like, what was going through your head when this was going on?
So he was talking to God like,
yeah, he
is
was
this
like,
it?
really, God? Like, this is how you're going to take me out of this is how you're going to take me out? And God said, nope. This is just going to be a part of your story, man. And
He has a crazy testimony.
he has a crazy testimony. And, you know, I hope, because of what's happened to him, I hope that he goes on to be the biggest artist of our time, because he deserves it.
Is there anything that Tory Lanez wants the public to know?
I think that Tory wants to know, well, I know what he wants the public to know. One, that he is so grateful of the support that he has from everyone. He feels it, but he wants everybody to know that Tory doesn't put his faith in people. He puts it in God. And he believes that God has put him through this journey because it's his job after this to help so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wants everybody to know that, like, his faith is in God, but he is forever grateful to everybody's support and the signatures on. I mean, when we tell him about things that are happening, he's just blown away. He's like, man, look at God. Like, wow. Like, he's so blown away of the support that he has, and he's so grateful, and he's so humble. But really, Tory just wants to be home with this kid.
Right.
That's what he wants.
Right.
Like, he wants to be with his son, and he wants to be, I mean, let's talk about, just really quick, you know, when people go away and they're away from their family member, it perpetuates this broken family system. That child will now have to endure that, and they go on in their life, and that's something of normalcy to him. And you see it more in certain communities than you do as a whole, right?
Right, especially in Black community.
Yeah, we have to stop that. And how you stop it is stop putting people in prison for things they didn't do. Okay, we can talk about it more, but we have to stop this culture of prison. We have able-bodied people in our system that should be out working. There are better ways for someone to pay for their crime. If it's not a violent crime where, like, they literally killed someone and that person is dead and they're a threat to society, that's different. This is why it is so interesting that someone like me is saying this. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. I believe in law and order. I love our men and women of law enforcement. But also, as a conservative who does believe in law and order, I believe we have the greatest system in the world. Show me another justice system in the world like ours, okay? It doesn't exist. There's no other. But is it perfect? Absolutely not. Which is why it's even more important that when you see injustice and you see that we got it wrong, it's even more important to fix it so that we can reserve the integrity of the system.
Right. Round of applause. Yeah. That's amazing. Now I got one last question before you get out of here.
All
because
right, let's do it. Give me something juicy.
I know that you know, you told me that, you know, you talked to Tory and he told you, he broke it down, you talked for hours, he told you the whole story of what happened. Okay. What did Tory say happened in that car?
Tory said exactly what the man in the affidavit said when he came forward. That's why it was true, because that guy never talked to Tory, did not know Tory before, was not in the courtroom when any testimony. How would this man have known what the story was? Because nobody had told the story, right? Nobody had physically told the story. But this guy verbatim says they were fighting. Kelsey shot the gun to scare Megan, not to hurt Megan. She shot it to scare Megan. Tory slapped her hand down. 2 more shots went off, and that's what happened. And that's what he wrote. And that's what Tory has said.
And this all happened outside of the vehicle. And
this happened outside of the vehicle. And then the eyewitness, Sean Kelly, originally has said 2 women were fighting, and he saw her shoot a gun. So that's a third person. But Tory never has publicly said his. People asked why. Well, one, he wasn't allowed really on the stand. And, you know, they didn't pretty much let him. They said they were going to use his lyrics against him and things like that. But it's his story to tell. And when he's out, he'll be able to tell the full story. And I'll let him do that because
absolutely.
It's a first.
We got to bring Tory on when he gets free. What up, Tory? Now,
Mhm.
Can I ask you just like a couple more unrelated questions to the Tory thing? Because
Yeah.
earlier you mentioned like Diddy.
Yeah.
Is there
Oh,
any
Lord,
inside
here we go.
information? Because there are a lot of rumors going on
Yeah, God,
that
that's such
Trump
an
may
interesting.
possibly pardon Diddy. Is that
You
true?
know, I was approached to potentially help with maybe the communication strategy, not by Diddy directly, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but by people that were associated to Diddy. And this is the thing: what an interesting situation this is, right? So, as an outsider looking in, I think the video is just disgusting.
Right.
Honestly, I just
Yeah, the video's bad.
as a woman, I don't care. I don't care how you spin it. And I always say this. I'm a fixer. I like to solve problems. I like to put together teams to help those problems. I'm a communicator. I like to be able to communicate, but I want to be on the side where I feel like I'm on the right side, right? Now, I'm not saying that with Diddy, I'm not making an assumption. I'm just saying for me personally, I choose what I want to choose off of how I feel integrity wise.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Diddy situation, it's very interesting because most people don't realize he's not being prosecuted for the video.
Right.
He's being prosecuted for trafficking, RICO, right?
Right.
But I'm not really seeing a lot of evidence for the trafficking and the RICO. I see this as like they really put this man on blast for his freakiness.
Right.
And you know, I've had friends who have been in the courtroom the last, you know, days, the other day. I will say this, I pray for Diddy because a lot of that stuff is just not normal,
Yeah.
right? It's not. And I don't know. I just, and in the whole, I pray for the man. And I pray for those who feel like they were victimized by him too, because I'm not into spinning things just to spin it. I don't care about money. Money does not drive me, by the way.
But do you think he's going to get out?
If I had to make a prediction today, and this could be a very controversial thing, but if I had to make a prediction today, I think he would.
I'm going to be honest. I think he's going to get out.
Yeah. I just think from
I
things
think
that
he
I'm
is.
hearing in the courtroom from people that I know, the temperature and what they're seeing. Also, again, I don't have a bone in this fight. So I want to make this very clear. I have no bone. I don't work with his legal team. I have not communicated with Diddy directly. I have no bone in this fight. And I'm not advocating for a pardon. And do I think the president's going to pardon him? I have no idea. But Trump loves to play the media. Okay. So, you know, he knew they were going to ask him.
But
about
Trump,
that.
it seems like they may have been friends at one point.
I think they were, but
they
they're
had a lot of
not
pictures
at
together.
all. I mean, Diddy donated to Trump's campaign. I do know that. That's
Oh,
public
really? I
record.
didn't know
He
that.
did.
Okay.
Yep. He donated to his campaign. I
But
don't know.
for him to get pardoned, he would first have to be convicted first.
Right, correct. Now, I do know how the president works with these things. He's not going to do a preemptive pardon for pity, meaning he wouldn't just go pardon him now. No. I mean, if
He
Trump,
has to wait. Yeah.
he would wait for all the facts to air out. He would wait for the conviction to happen. And then what he would do is if they felt like, if others around him felt like that there was wrongdoings and that he didn't get a fair trial, right? The president, which honestly, I think the president's answer was a good answer because it tells you right then that he wasn't making it political. If he had an answer, it would have been political because the facts haven't aired out.
What
in the
was
case,
his
right?
statement when
He
they asked him?
basically said that he would look at it if like he said, let me be clear, nobody has come to me about a pardon for Diddy. So he was clarifying, I haven't seen an application, nor has anybody lobbied the president for a pardon. So he was making that clear. But he said, basically, he would treat him like he would treat everybody else. If there was an application that was submitted on his behalf and people were lobbying, he would look at it. And if they
I
felt
feel like he would pardon him.
I don't know. I mean,
But
boy,
that's
it would be
if he
wild.
gets
I wouldn't
convicted,
put it
though. That's if he
past
gets
him.
convicted.
But you know what? He would pardon him if he felt like that there was wrongdoing. I don't think Trump would pardon him just to pardon him. No, I don't think that that's how the president is.
We do play a game on the show where we ask our special guests to FaceTime one celebrity that they think would answer the phone.
Oh, you know, I bet you I could FaceTime Sean Kingston right now just because he's texting me.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right,
let's get it.
Let's say. You know what cracks me up about some of these celebrities, and I'm not going to name drop all the people I work with just because I just think it's trashy. But these boys love to FaceTime.
They do.
I'll get random
So
calls. I'm
weird,
like,
yeah.
I ain't FaceTiming. I'm literally just worked out. I look like crap. They're like, no, DD. I'm like, listen, we ain't FaceTiming. And sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll be laying in bed, and my boyfriend's
FaceTime,
like,
yeah.
done. He's over it.
Like,
He's
who
over
are these rappers FaceTiming
He's over
you?
this shit. He's like, it's too personal. He tells me it's too personal. Oh, so, okay, I'm filming this podcast, and they have a game that says, call a celebrity and see if they'll answer on FaceTime. And I said, oh, I know one that will answer on FaceTime because this guy loves to FaceTime.
What's up, Sean? What's up, my brother? How are you, man? Hey, wishing many blessings to you, man. Many prayers to you and your family.
Thank you, my brother. God bless y'all.
God bless you, man. We got to get you on the show.
For sure, man. Diana's the one. She talked to him.
Here, search around to the screen. Say hello to everybody.
What's up? What up?
Yo.
Hey, Sean, anything you want to say to your fans?
Man, I love you guys. You know what I mean? Shout out to my man. You feel me?
Rip
All
it
the
up,
supporters, all the love. And yeah, you guys be hearing a lot soon, man. Diana, we got a big campaign on the way, so stay tuned.
Amen.
Absolutely, yeah.
I told him how wonderful you were. So, but I was like, I bet you he'll answer. These are all your peeps, anyways. But I told him, I said, Sean's a good one, and when his story's told, I didn't tell your story, but I'll let you tell your story one day,
It's
buddy.
gonna be soon.
It will. No, he's a good man. Him and his mom, and again, we're here. We're fighting for the right things, right, buddy?
Yes,
Definitely, man. That's amazing. Well, you're in good hands, and
Yeah.
it's going to be great.
We'll call you later, hun. Bye.
That's
Told
what's
you
up.
an
All right,
answer.
can you call Snoop next? Let's just go down the list.
Oh God! Oh, I don't know. I don't know what Snoop would think. I could try, but I don't know. I don't know what he would think. I'll reserve Snoop's privacy. There's some people that it's
We'll
like,
save Snoop for next time.
yeah, we'll save him for next time.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really commend you for dedicating your career to helping so many individuals because, like you said, for you, it's not about the money.
No.
You have a passion for wanting to see justice and help people. So I really have to commend you for that. I think it's great for you to dedicate your life to service, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and
Of course.
Tory's story. And I'm honored to have you guys on, and I want to appreciate you too, William, for setting this up and arranging it, and
You're the man. When I
doing
met
your
you, I was
thing.
like, this guy's the man.
Yeah,
Gotta
it
get
was.
Diana London out there.
Well, it was so funny because I get asked to do like a lot of different interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
You turned down most of them.
I know I have. I've turned down actually 7. No, I did because last
Thanks
week.
for coming on the We in
No,
Miami.
But I was
It's not
talking.
easy to get a hold of.
I know, right?
But Tory, we were talking about it, and he's like, "Dee, you're gonna have to get out there. Like, you got to tell the story because, we have surrogates and people, but like, people got to know what's going on, and you can tell it." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I just like these news outlets. I'm a little bitter towards
Yeah,
them
'cause of all the media
Why do I
and-
want to? Why do I want to reward people who helped take this guy
Do it.
down?
Right.
And I would rather reward the culture who have
Mhm.
stuck by him, who are willing to tell his story. And I'd rather come on and give people like you exclusives and let you have that opportunity to produce, breaking news.
Right.
Because, I want people like you to benefit from that. Not the same people who've literally profited off of this man and helped take him down. Like I don't, I think traditional media is not as effective as podcasts and stuff anymore.
Absolutely. And before we get out of here, what would you like to say to Tory's fans?
Tory and myself too are forever grateful for just the love and the love that you show me and the love that you show everybody who is just supporting him. Thank you for that. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm now an umbrella. That's like his thing. He's an umbrella. But he was explaining to me what the umbrella was is because he wanted people in the community to feel like that they were under the umbrella, like of a community,
Right.
and so the umbrellas, but, thank you for just everything that each of you are doing and your support for Tory, even those who are just tweeting or messaging. It really, I don't think people understand how actually important it is because the governor is paying attention because of his fans and how persistent they are. And they're calling the governor's office and they're signing the petition and they're sending people who are connected to the governor to talk to him. And like, this is what will free Tory, or ultimately what his fans have done to support him. And that is very powerful. And then how about when other breaking news comes out, I'll let you know.
There we
How
go.
about that?
You heard
And
it
how
here
about when he's
first.
free, you'll be one of the people we call to and
There
let
we
you do
go.
one of the
Let's
interviews.
go. There it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Diana London. and my boy William Cunningham II. Thank you guys so much for coming
Of course.
on the show. Make sure you check out the website. Give them the site again. It is
36hourslater.com.
I'm about to log on there.
Yeah, go
This,
to
I feel like this whole thing could one day be a movie. Have you
No,
guys-
it will be.
Have you
I mean,
talked to
it'll be-
anyone about selling this, like
Maybe.
Paramount or?
maybe
This would be a huge movie,
this will be on it.
right? You know, there
The
we go.
moment, right?
Well, before we get out of here, I got to ask you guys, where we at?
We in Miami.
We in Miami.